A very important part of the recovery journey is thinking, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to achieve? If your goal is to build a house, you need to think about where the location is of the house, where you're going to build it. You're going to think about how you're going to build it, the team that's going to be building it for you, the materials that you're going to need to build it, how big you want that house to be, what you want it to look like with the architect, and so on. Now, with the OCD recovery journey, there are similar components. First, you've got to set out, what are you trying to achieve? What is recovery? Well, recovery by definition is the absence of chronic guilt and chronic anxiety long term. So the absence of suffering. Why do you want to do that? Because humans don't want to suffer. You want to feel better. So therefore, your goal is to not suffer. Preferably, you don't want to be suffering in the long term. OCD, when you start to feel a bit better along the way, you tend to have short-term relief. So that would be short-term recovery. Now, if you have the option of short-term or long-term recovery, you're going to opt for long-term because short-term is a shorter experience of pleasure breaks in between discomfort coming back. So that's not the optimum. Now, unfortunately, what's happened over the years is people have presumed that recovery is just putting up with it and then experiencing these short windows of freedom, when that's actually not what recovery is at all. That's putting up with suffering, and that's going along just thinking, hey, I'm putting up with it, I'm lumping it, as the term that I often use to describe that, and you're sort of just going from one false dawn to the next, never getting that baseline default peace reinstated once again. So recovery is long-term peace. Now, obviously, the only reason that you're suffering from discomfort, but not so obvious, because if you're starting out on the journey, you won't be aware of this, what you're experiencing is your beliefs are fueling the cycle of catastrophizing and therefore giving you the long-term anxiety. As the beliefs change, the behaviors change, then you're not stuck in this position of long-term suffering. So that's your goal. How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to work on recovery by changing your perspectives, changing your behaviors, which then your perspectives shift, but you need the behaviors to shift to often see that, and vice versa. You're going to have to do this repeatedly because the brain tends to stay a bit stuck with its views until it's proven otherwise. So you're going to have to do that too. So you've got a fair bit of work you've got to get on with there in terms of building your mental house, your new house for OCD so it can't function, a new framework, because OCD currently functions very well and likes its habitat where currently it's in an environment where it can just run rampant and it can move from every morph thought, and it's very comfortable with that. So to change that framework, you need to break down rigidity, black and white thinking. You need to break down avoidance behaviors, where you're avoiding things and teaching the brain there's something terrible and needs to be avoided. And you need to also teach the brain how to have good habits day to day so that you're living and functioning and not relying on anxiety giving you brief moments of freedom where you can then live your life how you want to. So that's what you're trying to do. So that's your sort of plan of action for how you're going to do it. And that's going to require behavioral exercises, disputing irrational beliefs, looking at things, philosophy, perspectives, discussing those, and a much deeper understanding of OCD. Now, if you do all of the above, then you're starting to get to where you want to. And the reason you're doing this is not just for the absence of suffering. That is, of course, the main goal. That's the main objective. But also what you've got going on is you realize that when you are back to a baseline state of default inner peace, you have the energy which you need to work on the areas of your life towards the goals that you have. So, for example, maybe you want to be successful in a business or a successful athlete, or maybe you want to be a mum raising a family. Maybe you want to have a job and put food on the table for your family. A lot of these things are sort of the things that most people are going to pick, obviously for the main reasons that they bring great benefits to our lives. And to do that, the more energy you have and less crushed in your mind you are by OCD, then you're going to feel more freer, less fatigued. You're going to have more clarity to make good decisions. And decisions and behavior work leads to a better life for what you want, right? And if you start to look at things objectively and look at how how you implement behavioral changes and how those lead to different results, you'll start to see your life very differently. Perhaps you currently spend a lot of time shopping for clothes because you want to look a certain way, but you haven't looked at the beliefs behind that you want to be accepted, you want to get likes on Instagram. And then you've got to weigh up, well, how much time is that taking and where's that getting you? Is that goal a good goal and effective for you? And then you can reevaluate those and change your perspectives. And that's the same as OCD. You first need to look at what you're trying to achieve. It's the same as if somebody decides, I would like to open an orange juice stand. Right, well, what's the goal there with an orange juice stand? One, you may love orange juice and it's your passion. And two, you may want more people to enjoy orange juice and you believe in the health of people drinking orange juice. All of those could be popular goals. Your other goal might be you want to open an orange juice stand because you want to make some money so that you can put food on the table, rent a home, and be able to do those things and be your own boss. That might be your goal. Maybe you worked in a shop that was selling juice before, and you didn't like having a pushy boss, and you had some great ideas that you wanted to go ahead with in terms of the orange juice stand, and so you decided to do that. All of those are perfect, good goals to have. But along the way, you're going to be faced with many problems with that, because although it seems simplistic in a naive way, originally, what you will notice is that you'll have problems. The location of your orange juice stand, the number of footfall at your orange juice stand, the problem with competition to your orange juice stand, the problem with how much employing staff at the orange juice stand, growth, scaling, all the different elements that come with operating a business. Now, with OCD, what's going to happen is as you move along recovery, OCD is like a competitor. It's trying to attack your vulnerabilities. It's trying to exploit levels of the game that you're not at yet. So, for example, in your mind, you may not be at a position where you've got acceptance a lot better. So it starts looking for more scary fears, things that are hard to accept, or things that exploit your vulnerabilities in relation to how you accept yourself or how you view yourself, and self-esteem related issues. So that teaches you teach that as levels in the game. The same as the orange juice stand guy should teach in his mind to help him. He should think about any problems he has with the orange juice stand as a great lesson for when he has multiple orange juice stands. So if you start thinking about it like that, it then helps it break it down so you can view it and work through problems in a much better manner. And that's the same with OCD, because it is going to morph and exploit that. And it's also what's going to happen is as you feel better, life events are going to happen, and you're going to think through the OCD lens. You always see it like this. Oh, if only that hadn't happened, I would be fine. Oh, before it was just latched to a thought. Now it's latched to a real event of some illness that I've suddenly just got or whatever. So you're learning to problem solve and be a master of problem solving, not in the compulsive manner, but problem solving in terms of acceptance, in terms of learning to accept, in terms of learning to bring feelings along, in terms of learning to be more internally willing to discomfort, in terms of adapting your life and habits to suit a better quality of life and function, and all those elements combined that bring OCD recovery into play. And the same as the orange juice stand owner, as he then has 2 stores, and then he wishes, oh, if he only had 1 because it was easier to run one because he can't look over 2, and then problems with his actual orange juice, and now he can't get supplies of oranges. And the same with OCD. You're going to get periods where you feel better for long periods of time, and you think, oh, I've mastered it. And then it moves to something that you haven't had before. And out of the blue, after you've been feeling very good and thinking, I'm recovered, I'm never going to get stuck again. And it's going to exploit that, and it's going to look for that, because that's what it's like. View it a bit like an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. It's morphing, but we can get under it. Acceptance wins at the end of the day. But it's going to take practice and persistence and adapting, as do most things in life. So when you start thinking like that and you think of the journey ahead, it's not going to be a week journey. It's not going to be a month journey. It's going to take a while. It might take you a couple of years, but you're going to notice probably a significant shift in the next few months if you put in a lot of work. And I'm talking here to people who have chronic severe OCD, not just the mild OCD, but where it's severely impacting you from all angles, sort of 24/7. So yeah, and that's a good way to view it, because then you're looking at it in a balanced view, in a long-term view, 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time. And if you view it like that, then you're approaching it realistically. The same as the orange juice stand guy. If he said, okay, I'm going to open an orange juice stand and sell 1 million oranges on the first day. Well, one, he hasn't got a million oranges. Two, he couldn't support that amount of demand, and it would be a disaster. So he needs to go along and learn the trade and learn what he's doing bit by bit. And the same with you. You're going to have to learn how OCD operates, how it morphs as you go through levels of the game. And life has levels of the game. That's what life is. Every time you level up, you have to bring new things to the table. Every time it levels up OCD, it has to bring new things to the table. And you adapt and adapt and adapt. And that's how you get to recovery, and that's how you move through life.